You're listening to WSTU Stewart.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
It's 6:07 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast, and you're on Small Biz Florida with Mr. Tom Kindred.
Thank you, sir, and welcome to another segment and installment of Small Biz Florida, the broadcast and podcast that's all things business across the Treasure Coast and the entire state of Florida. Small Biz Florida is brought to you by the Florida Small Business Development Center Network and is produced by the Florida SBDC right here at Indian River State College. Small Biz Florida is designed and produced to highlight and promote business assistance resources, celebrate entrepreneurial success, present best practices, and most importantly, provide timely business information for Florida's small business community. I am Tom Kindred, your host, and former small business owner myself, and As everyone knows, I serve now as the Regional Director for the Florida Small Business Development Center at Indian River State College. So, Greg, how are you this evening?
Doing real well.
Good.
Yep.
Everything's good in Radio Land?
Yeah, the athletic world at IRSC will be broadcasting. We've got the volleyball coach who's actually going to be on this show tonight.
Okay.
And we'll have Coach Charlie Wilson and Coach Jamara Robinson talking about upcoming basketball.
And all that gets underway. Well, school starts, I believe, next week.
Oh, yeah. Volleyball, they're practicing already.
Professors and instructors are back on campus this week, and I think students are back in business next week. So we are off and running. Basketball and volleyball will be live, I guess, and you can attend. And
yep,
so
we've got
far
41 broadcasts planned.
Wow.
Now let's see if I survive them. That's the other question. No, it should be wild.
I'm still gonna, Greg. One day I'm gonna really study basketball because I'm gonna be your sidekick on a game one night. I just not good enough at basketball yet to work a game yet.
You know, I think that's a great idea, and I will invite you on the bus.
Yeah.
And you can go to Fort Myers with us, a nice 5-hour trip. Huh? So welcome to sports.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Don't know if I can keep up. I'm just an old, business broadcaster here. I don't know. I don't know if I could go on the road.
It's tough.
All right. Well, Greg, as I tell you many times, we strive to bring high-level business conversation and discussion to the show. I'd like to think most of the time we do that, but tonight we definitely will do that. We have a studio full of some very important folks in the world of business around our region, the Treasure Coast. I am really looking forward to the conversation tonight, learning more about this organization. You know, we were talking earlier before the broadcast. I spent many years as a business owner, operator. Had some good years, had some lean years, but always tried to stay engaged and involved. I served with the Chamber of Commerce. I served on the Ag Extension Committee with the county. So again, tried to stay engaged and always had heard about the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and always heard great things about the work they did and the team they had, but never really understood exactly, their programs and their assistance that was available out there. I recently have had the opportunity to begin again to become engaged with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and I said, you know what, we've got to get these folks on the show and talk about what they do, because it's a very powerful a value-added program for our business community. So tonight I have a big crew here from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. I think what's our limit here in the studio? We probably have maxed it out tonight.
We can get 12 more in here.
I don't know exactly where we'd fit those.
There's a second story.
Oh, okay. There's a loft here, or some, yes, an outdoor eating area upstairs.
It wasn't originally outdoors, but it was after that lightning strike the other day.
We have with us tonight, we've got Terry Ann Paulo, who serves as the Disaster Economic Recovery Coordinator. I am working closely with Terry recently as I serve on the Disaster Recovery group at the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. Welcome to the show, Terry.
Thanks for having me.
We've got Stephanie Height, who serves as the Economic Development and Intergovernmental Program Director. Stephanie, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we have the Executive Director of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, Mr. Thomas Lanahan. Thomas, well, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for having us here.
Absolutely. I feel like I've let the show down. You should have been on, a couple years ago.
Well, as we hit year 7 in about 6
Greg,
weeks.
I think you use a multiplier.
No.
In our. There's no way we've been doing this for
YouTube,
7
man.
years.
Check it on YouTube.
Can't believe we've been here for 7 years.
Yeah,
but
it's amazing.
But anyway, glad we've got you on tonight. So. Anyway, let's get started because I want to make sure we cover all that the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and I'll to shorten the show, I'm going to chop off the Treasure Coast for the moment. We'll just call you the Regional Planning Council.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So let's start with the big picture. Let's start with you, Thomas. Just kind of give us. What's the history? Who created the Regional Planning Council? How does it all work?
Sure, thank you. The idea of regional planning councils in Florida goes back into the 1960s. First, originally sparked by the construction of a jet port, a supersonic jet port in the middle of the Everglades. And there was a lot of controversy around that project, obviously had beyond county scale impacts, and so this idea that we need to have some kind of a way to look at issues bigger than just one county got sparked. Our local regional planning council was formed in 1976. We are authorized by state statute. There are a total of 10 regional planning councils across the entire state. Every county belongs to one regional planning council, and ours, like I said, dates back to 1976. We are authorized by statute, but governed by an interlocal agreement. So that's an agreement among governments between the 4 counties of the region. So that is Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River counties. That's our area that forms the council.
And what is your background? Kind of what was your pathway as to the executive director of the Regional Planning Council?
Sure. My degree is in architecture, so I went to school for architecture. And when I first got out of school, I worked for an architecture and construction management company. And then I did that for about 7 years. Then I got a job with the city of Green Acres down in Palm Beach County.
Know it well, yes.
And it was the place to be. I'll just go ahead and throw that out there for everybody. I used to get that on the phone all the time, especially when Nick at Night brought the reruns back. A whole new generation got to joke with me about that. But I always embraced it. They would say, "Oh, Green Acres, ha!" I'm like, "Hey, it's the place to be," It was very memorable. But anyway, so I worked there for 7 years and doing. I was the planning director, planning and engineering director, assistant city manager. As I moved through my time there, actually, I was there 16 years. Sorry if I said 7, I was wrong. 16 years. And then I got recruited, if you will, by the previous executive director at Treasure Coast, Michael Busha, who called me up and said, "Hey, come up and talk to me." And I didn't really even know what it was going to be about, but I went up and talked to him, and he was, nearing the end of his career. He was looking forward into a retirement a few years, and so asked me to come work there. Actually, I was Stephanie's immediate predecessor as Economic Development Director, and then our then assistant director retired, so I moved into that position, and then when Mike retired, the council was gracious enough to give me the position. And so, I knew some of what Treasure Coast did by virtue of my local government experience, but once I got on board, I found all these other things that the Regional Planning Council does. So,
does the Regional Planning Council have a board of directors? What's the structure of our region's planning council?
Sure, we have a board. We do have a board. It's made up of 28, I think. Yes, 28 officials. They are county commissioners. They are city council people. And they are also appointees from the governor's office.
Okay.
So gubernatorial. That's one of my things I got to learn at the Regional Planning Council. Gubernatorial appointees that typically are in the business community or something like that. They bring a great different perspective to bear than just the county or elected official perspective.
Nice, very nice. Thank you for the getting us kind of the high level overview.
Sure.
Stephanie, let's turn to you just for a minute. Give us your background and pathway to the Regional Planning Council.
Okay. I started out actually in a not so small company in our region, Armelini Express Lanes. This is where I first showed up. So I worked there for 5 or 6 years, great opportunity. And then I went to, it was called Behavior Analysts and Consultants. So we did psychological consulting, but for businesses.
Right.
So we did profiling for theaters, for hiring, basically creating profiles to hire in the right people. So we did that. And then we also work with nuclear power plants, giving people access to those and backgrounding people, but basically doing psychological testing and then interviews for that. And then we also worked with the post office for when they had an incident back then. We had a lot of postal incidents. We go there and do, kind of the psychological part of the aftermath of that.
Right.
So then I moved on to Liberty Medical. So I spent a few years there. I was caught up in one of their layoffs, so I was kind of trying to figure out where do I go next. So I went to an employment agency, and they sent me to council.
Wow.
So the rest is history. I finally found my calling, I think. After being there a few years, I was hired on as the administrative assistant, but I really enjoyed what we were doing, so I went back to IRSC. I will highly recommend their public administration program.
Nice.
I did the policy leadership section. They also have the emergency management, but I would highly recommend that program. So I got my Bachelor of Science there at IRSC, and then I went on to get my certification as a planner with the American Institute of Certified Planners. So it just it was like I finally figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up, but at 40. So
Nice. Greg and I talk about we haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
So you're way ahead.
I don't remember 40. Come to think of it, I don't remember 60 or 70.
Right. This is one of those great shows, Greg. That we're hitting all those bullet point. We've got an IRSC grad.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, your background in that psychological. I mean, that is that's a very hot topic right now too. And we may have you back and do a whole show on that. But we just had a conversation the other day with Jill from the St. Lucie EDC about the difference between the distribution industries that are coming in and then the manufacturing, and you have to do some of that testing to make sure you're getting the right people in the right job, because a person who might work at the distribution center might not be right for the manufacturer. So interesting topic. So great background. That's very very hot right now.
She'd have a field day in this building.
Yeah. None of you are suited for this position. Terry, same question. Give us a little bit of your pathway to the Regional Planning Council.
Sure. So I've always wanted to work in government. So I went to Florida State, studied political science. After graduation, I moved up to D.C., worked for an agricultural lobbying group for a few years there. After a while, you get sick of being in D.C., so you move back home. So for a bit, I worked for Senator Debbie Mayfield when she was a state representative. After that, I managed an international nonprofit. I was looking around to get back into the local community, local governments, and that's when I found this opportunity. I started this job in November.
Wow, nice. And we're going to talk a little bit about what you're doing in terms of disaster relief, but let's go back to services of the Regional Planning Council. All those years, and I talked about how I always heard about the Regional Planning Council, I always made the assumption that it was really just a planning organization. It was just, and I even at one time thought it was really kind of focused just on transportation. So talk a little bit about you're much more than just a planning organization. Talk about those services, those real boots on the ground services that you provide for the business community.
No, that's not me. That's you.
Oh, the right. Oh, sorry. We have our little. Okay. Yes. No. We. So sure. Thank you. And we do provide a number of different services, some of which are a surprise to some of our clients in other areas that we provide services. So we do emergency management and preparedness, believe it or not. We help coordinate hazardous materials response training. We run a committee that meets regularly that brings different people in the hazardous materials world together, plant operators, law enforcement, FDOT, fire departments, those sorts of things. A group that actually grew out of the Union Carbide disaster in Bhopal, India, back in the 1980s, where they had a chemical release that killed quite a few people. I don't remember the number, but it was a lot. And there was a recognition in the United States that, hey, that could actually happen here, and we need to get some things ready to deal with if there was something like that or any kind of event. And so we do that work, provide a lot of training for first responders on those sorts of issues. We have a urban design studio where we do town planning, places that want to revitalize their downtown. We will come in, work with the community, identify what are the issues, what are the opportunities there, what are the things that you can do that will revitalize the place but be in keeping with the community character and the community's desires. And that's always by invitation. We don't, drive up and down US 1 in the corridor and jump out of the car and start redesigning people's downtowns without their permission. We're invited in. And what's been nice about that business is we've been doing it for decades, and there are communities that we did plans with 20 years ago that we're now getting invited back in to say, okay, that's our 20-year-old plan. What here's what we did, here's how much we accomplished, what should we do next? And that's exciting, and we've actually been able to touch most of the communities in the region, frankly. We've done something, one thing or another with them. And that's a unique feature to our particular regional planning council. The emergency management stuff, all the RPCs do that. We're kind of unique in the urban design aspect. We are involved, like you said, in transportation policy. You mentioned that. We do the beyond county scale coordination work between MPOs and metropolitan planning organizations, which is a kind of a county scale allocator of federal and state dollars. We do the county-to-county coordination, a lot of work on what's called complete streets, which is this idea that that roadways belong to all the people, not just a single driver in their automobile, that the person on the sidewalk matters, the person on a bicycle, the person in a bus, So creating a safe and usable transportation for all those folks. And also a lot of activity with, especially the farther south part of the region, with commuter rail. We have a planning contract with Tri-Rail, and unlocking value in their station sites is something that we're currently doing. They have a lot of parking lots that just kind of sit there.
Right.
And, can we get some housing in there, and can we get some lease revenue for Tri-Rail? So it's a it's a great it's an exciting project. Huge opportunities out there. We're helping with that, and the environmental issues, biosolids, which is what's left over after sewage gets treated. It's it's kind of a stinky business, but we're trying to help solve some of those problems. Yes, thank you. You can laugh, ladies. It's okay. It's a tough crowd, so we're trying to help resolve those issues. Spreading it out on the ground is what's traditionally been done. That is not a long-term solution. And as Florida grows, there's fewer and fewer places to do that safely, and more people generating the product we're trying to get rid of. So, trying to wrap our hands around that issue. Coral reefs. There's a disease out there on the coral reef, and we're trying to help. With that, working with South Florida Regional Planning Council, because our reef tract runs from Martin County all the way down to Monroe, so down beyond Key West, all the way up to there. And there's an infection out there that's killing the coral. And the interesting thing is some of these things I'm talking about are all actually interrelated. What we spread on the land runs off the land. Into the water, out onto the reef.
Right.
And the harder we make it for the little animals in the reef to live, then when a disease comes by, they're already weak, and they're not as capable of fighting off the disease as they would be otherwise. So that's something else that we're involved with. And then the Indian River Lagoon, the health of the lagoon, again, interrelated.
Right.
All those pieces go together. So that's just a pretty good sampling of some of the things that we do.
Now, are you involved in the Lake Okeechobee thing with the Corps of Engineers?
To some extent, we have we've been monitoring that. That's a very interesting, multi-layered, complicated issue that has a lot of passion around it, and something that we would bring to the table in those sorts of discussions is that it is important to look at more than just one group or one community's need or concern in that, because that lake is it's a natural system. It is a part of the drainage system, and it's also part of the water supply. And things that are done to maximize or minimize potential discharges have the potential to harm its ability to be the backup water supply for millions of people south of here. So it's a very complicated issue that over the years, we've done a lot of information sharing. We've had some great presentations at the council about how does the plumbing work, because it's a system. It's a system from Orlando down to the Keys, and how do all those pieces work together, and the profound ways that development by man over the years has changed that natural system, and not necessarily for the better. So yes.
Wow. I mean, I again, as I have learned and begun working with the Regional Planning Council, I knew you guys were doing some very powerful and valuable work. But again, I had no idea to the extent of all the different elements of what we live in and live with every day that you're working on. With all of that, with all that you're doing, and as embedded as you are, and as kind of baked in as you are to the marketplaces, you guys must really be quite a data collection point for the counties that you serve. Is that? Do you have? Are you a clearinghouse for information? Could people, get information from you, looking to locate a business here, looking to do research on our marketplace? Are you a good stopping place to get information like that?
Potentially, depending on what the information is, we may have it ourselves, or very likely we're going to know where to point you to. one of the things that's happened over the years with, the internet and electronic availability of information, the need for us to physically warehouse data has diminished over the years. We used to warehouse a lot of data, and people had to send us information, and we had it, and books and all that kind of stuff. Which is filling our office building, but now a lot of the stuff is electronic, and we either host it on our website or we can point people to the right direction to get the most current information. But by participating in a lot of different groups and being out there in the community, we get that opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute, I think I heard that at such and such a group, and that'd be a good person to talk to, and making those connections, helping people. Not be siloed in their own world.
So I want to go back. Let's touch on a couple, maybe just a little further, deeper dive into some of these issues. But you talked about the tri-rail system. What a little update maybe on Brightline coming through the Treasure Coast? What's the latest on all of that?
Sure. The construction is well underway on phase 2. So they've built their phase 1, which was Miami to West Palm Beach, and it is currently suspended in operation. They opened, they operated, they suspended back in, I want to say it was either March or April last year because of coronavirus. Okay. People's ability to move around was limited. People's desire to move around was limited, right. And it didn't make any sense for them to operate. So they stopped. My understanding from announcements I've just seen from them is they are restarting service in November, which would be very exciting to get that back underway. So that's phase 1. Phase 2, which is from West Palm Beach north to Orlando. It's basically north to Cocoa and then make a left turn at the Beachline Expressway and then go into Orlando Airport. That is well underway in construction. I believe that is supposed to be operational in 2022, so I would guess at this point the end of the year in 2022. But a tremendous, amazing construction work happening. We have some pretty run-of-the-mill track type work happening down here, but up by Cocoa, they're building flyovers over 95 and tunneling underneath the beach line. I mean, just amazing work, civil work that we haven't seen in this area in decades is happening up there. Billions of dollars of construction. Are we going to get any funding out of the new infrastructure bill that's coming down the pike? Is that part of that money maybe designated towards the high-speed rail here? The Brightline work is privately funded. Okay. They are tax-exempt bonds, I believe, is the category that they're allowed to issue. However, for the Tri-Rail system, that's a government enterprise, so they would be a good candidate for some of this infrastructure work. And council has been advocating to our members and our local governments in the region for folks to take that American Rescue Plan money and think long-term, think investment, think 20, 30-plus year duration type, heavy things that are going to be around a long time, so that we can have some kind of a positive legacy from all this pain and suffering to be able to point back and say, wow, look at these great things that got done. Kind of like happened in the Depression, where they did the Works Project Administration, built bridges and national parks and those kind of things. And some of those things we still use today. We have bridges that operate today that were built in that era.
Yeah. So. Sure. Is Tri-Rail ever looking at expanding to the Treasure Coast?
They have had plans for a long time to expand up to Jupiter, Palm Beach Gardens and Jupiter. I have raised that question with them in the past, and the answer that I usually get is, let us get to Jupiter, because we've been working on that for 10 years, or 20 years. Then we'll start talking about moving north of there. I think that would be fantastic to pick up a commuter opportunity, in a Stewart or something like that. Brightline is looking to do a station either in Fort Pierce or Stewart, so that opportunity may arrive through them. But yes, I mean these things are, and especially as time goes by and our region gets more and more interconnected, and the ability to rapidly move up and down the interstate gets more and more constrained. These sort of things become a great opportunity.
I will tell you, I had the opportunity. I needed to visit the University of Miami Health Center on a fairly regular basis, and I can tell you that I got very good at riding Tri-Rail, and what an incredible service.
Yes.
I mean, I could catch Tri-Rail in Riviera Beach, and I can be in downtown Miami in an hour and 40 minutes. It really amazing.
And be relaxed when you got there.
And read
right?
a book on the way down. That's
Not
right.
be crazed that you were going to miss your appointment.
Let's talk about you again. You talked about downtowns. I think I'm always I think an interesting fact, at least about up in our marketplace, the Indian River, St. Lucie Martin, and Okeechobee County. We've got 5 Main Street cities within the 4 counties up here. And our downtowns have done some incredible work. I mean, downtown Stewart and Fort Pierce and Lincoln Park, the theater, and then Vero Beach. It really is, when you look at our downtowns, it really have done some Okeechobee, incredible, a downtown through the park there. Really done some incredible work. Is that, again, that's all things that you kind of help, and guide through some way in programs?
Yes, absolutely. We have been involved in Fort Pierce for decades, I think. 2008, but maybe even before then with the downtown master planning that we did with them. And so, these things, one of the interesting things about the council's work, especially when I first got there, was as I learned more about projects that we had worked on, I learned that places that I admired or that I had been to and enjoyed, that we had actually had a role in that happening, but it had happened decades before. And this stuff takes a long time. We're farmers, but almost like tree farmers. We plant these seeds, and it takes many years for them to bear fruit, and it's important to go back and kind of check those out and see how we're doing, revisit them, take another look at them.
Talk a little bit about grant dollars. Does the Regional Planning Council facilitate and manage some pool of grant dollars for certain particular projects?
I'm going to ask Stephanie to field that one.
Okay. The Economic Development Administration, which is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, they fund us to be the economic development district for the region. So, and each of the regional planning councils, our boundaries are coterminous with those, and we do the economic development. So we are funded by EDA to do that type of funding. The money that's coming down now, like the American Rescue Plan money or the CARES Act funding, the part we play in that is we develop, each economic development district develops a CEDS plan, which is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Plan. And that's it's basically a plan for how we are going to grow, what kind of projects, what are our priorities for a region. So that is built, it's written every 5 years. We update it every year as a committee. Another committee we have is our CEDS committee. So that plan is looking at what do we want to prioritize as a region for economic development, the different kinds of projects we want. So when that funding comes down, one of the important things we do is I know Terry and I are reading all these notice of funding opportunities that come out. They call them the NOFOs, of the different projects and the different programs that they have. So they have, like right now, a lot of the programs, it's the Build Back Better program. We have Good Jobs. So they're looking, EDA is looking for projects that are going to create jobs and create economic development, and then also bring the private investment in to do those type of things. And one of the things that's mandatory for those grant applications is to get a consistency finding from us from our comprehensive economic development plan. So what we can do is we can help people or local governments. We recently did a webinar with EDA, and my phone's been ringing off the hook. My email's been filling up of people calling, what about this project? What about that project? So we just kind of help them vet through those projects. We can help them do the grant writing, because a lot of that is gathering data like you were talking about, and we do know how to do that. So we can help some of our local governments that maybe don't have that capacity on staff. We can help them with their grant writing and their grant research, and then we put the committee together to give them that consistency finding that's required for the government.
So where is the touch point with the Regional Planning Council and the business community? Is it the business community connects to the counties and the cities, and then the counties and cities connect to your resources? Is that how it works, or is there an actual touch point for the business with you?
I think the touch point can be that SEDS committee that we have, because we did, that is, it's local government representatives on there, but we also look for business people that will come in. We have Pete Tesh with the Economic Development Council of St. Lucie County. We have Ted Astolfi, who's in Martin County. We have those type of people that are on that committee that are looking out for the businesses. So they bring that interest to that committee.
It can be a number of different ways. It sometimes it's through the county, sometimes it's through the city, sometimes it's direct. It's not. They don't have to come, with an invitation to be able to interact with us.
Okay. So Stephanie, while you're on the mic here, let's continue with you a little bit. Now, again, here's one of those issues that I just had no idea that you would be involved in, but obviously one of our priorities at the Florida SBDC, we recognize that in order for our clients to grow, expand, build new facilities, add new employment, they've got to have access to capital.
Right.
So it is one of our primary KPIs for our center and for every of the other other 8 centers across the state of Florida. So our capital access specialist, Bill West, connected to the Regional Planning Council, Stephanie. And you guys have really, helped us kind of pick up the ball and carry this thing down the field. again, I should have been in your office 5 years ago, but little did I know. So, talk a little bit about the work you've been doing to kind of support our need and the marketplace's need to get access in the hands of small business owners.
Okay, yes. This Access to Capital project that we're working on, we are working with the Economic Development Council of St. Lucie County and the Small Business Development Center at IRSC, as well as some of our local bankers, to identify what are those needs out there, what are those deficiencies for our small businesses to be able to access that type of capital. So for the last 2 months, we did a business survey that went out to our local businesses. We contacted chambers and local governments and agencies to get this out to our small business. I've gone and talked to different places, Fort Pierce Main Street. We went there and talked just to get the business involved. We had over 235 respondents to that survey, and what our goal for that is to collect the data of what is happening to these small business owners. Where are they encountering problems with getting access to capital? What are the challenges that they're facing? And what we're hoping to do with that, we're going to take what we've identified as those challenges and maybe where there's some gaps. We're going to then work with the lenders to determine, what sources are out there? Is it really a gap? Is it an educational issue? Maybe these businesses just don't know that these resources are out there for them. So do we need to do some outreach? And then we'll work with those lenders to develop or market the sources that these small businesses need to access the capital.
Right.
So.
And again, in partnership with the SBDC at IRSC and Regional Planning Council and the St. Lucie County EDC, we held a little bit of a mini summit the other day with some bankers, and I was quite pleased with the response of the banking community. I think there was
excellent turnout.
Yeah, excellent turnout. And what I loved was we kind of had a preliminary discussion about the potential of some sort of revolving loan fund, and I guess what I was most pleased about was no one stood up and said, this is a bad idea. So I think there was some consensus in the room. Talk a little bit about how you felt the meeting went.
Yes, I think that those lenders in the room see the value in the small businesses, and I think they want to be able to help. Sometimes I think they're constrained by their business,
Right.
of what they can and can't lend to, but I think they did see the value in this. They see the value of working like collaboratively as like a coalition
Right.
to well, maybe we can't help, but what other things can we set up? Like you're talking the revolving loan fund.
Right.
I'm working on a grant right now to get some money from EDA to create that revolving loan fund for small businesses for our 3 counties.
Excellent. And continuing along this same path of boots on the ground type programs, Terry, let's talk a little bit about your work. I mean, so here comes COVID, 2020. I mean, really kind of, bangs on the marketplace. Certainly hospitality industries took it really the worst. But your whole work at the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council is to try to understand what's happened through the disaster and try to, strategize how we move forward. Talk a little bit about your mandate and what we're doing there.
Yes, that's absolutely right. So earlier this year, we launched a business impact survey just to figure out what was happening with the businesses here in our region. We've received over 211 responses to that fact. And from there, what we're hoping to do, as you know, since you sit on our task force, is we're going to look at these items here that the businesses has identified and explore some of this. So hopefully in the future, if God forbid we have another pandemic, we know how to recover and be more resilient to it.
Right. So it's you're kind of creating a business continuity, business continuation plan at a broad scale that you could deploy across the region's marketplace.
Absolutely. And part of the mandate of this task force that you chair is to create a pandemic portion to the comprehensive economic development strategy plan that goes towards the plan for the entire region and, again, towards getting some of these funds into the counties and cities.
Wow. And I think there was a request. I think it was Senator Harrell, who sits on the task force, had asked for an asset mapping, which I think your team is working on, which I'm anxious to kind of see. That'll allow us to kind of understand what counties, what cities have resources to support the business community. Is that kind of the purpose of that asset map?
I would say it's to see where the monies were spent.
Okay.
In a way, prioritizing and seeing what got X amount of funds and seeing why they got X amount of funds. Is it because that portion was suffering, or is it because they were growing throughout this time? Like, for instance, of course, we've seen here on the Treasure Coast a lot of construction and real estate. That industry has thrived throughout the pandemic.
Right.
So it's interesting.
And that's a good segue really into my next question. What does the marketplace look like? You obviously the three of you really have a good feel. Got your finger on the pulse of the entire marketplace. How are we recovering at this stage in the game? And I know we're facing another surge, so it may kind of knock us down again. But how do we look as a marketplace?
That's very interesting, and it kind of relates to one of the questions on the survey. We asked the participants at this point in time, when the survey was launched back in March, how do you feel as far as recovering towards a pre-pandemic status? And at that point, it was March, so it had been a year since we were hit with coronavirus. And the most common answer was that it would take another 6 months. Interestingly enough, too, if you backtrack and go back towards September was when Governor Ron DeSantis declared that there would be no mandates on business operations. So from September to March, that was 6 months of them operating or trying to get back to a fully operational scale. And then at that point in time, the businesses had said, hey, we need probably another 6 months to recover.
And Stephanie, what is your take, kind of where we are as a marketplace today, as we sort of maybe see a little light at the end of this? Maybe?
Yeah, I think as Terry's saying, I think we are recovering. I think there's some that are recovering better than others, and I think that's kind of where we're going to need to start focusing on what industries did really thrive, which ones did better. And how do we, the tourism, I know one of EDA's priorities now is to lift up the tourism industry again. So I think there are definitely some areas where we need to put in more work and we need to concentrate a little bit. But I think as a region, I think we're recovering. Yeah, we're getting back to work. Our unemployment's going down, back down to the levels from pre-pandemic levels. So and people are starting to get back out in the workforce now.
And of course, obviously, you're very in touch with all the EDOs across the county, and you hear all the big news that's coming out of our region, Amazon and FedEx. I mean, Thomas, just kind of. Where do you see us going? I mean, what if the pandemic finally one day we can, it goes away? Where do you see the Treasure Coast going? I mean, have we finally arrived? Give us make the announcement tonight.
Oh my gosh!
Have we arrived?
Wow, what a great question. There's certainly been a lot of amazing news and announcements over the last year. Council has been proud to be very involved with City of Port St. Lucie and the Southern Grove property, 1,200 acres along I-95. We were engaged by the city to do master planning for that. And things became so dynamic with that we actually had to redraw a couple parts of the plan because they were selling property and getting things underway as we were doing the drawing. Because I think what happened is, people started to recognize that property as a absolutely unique thing along through this area. There is nowhere else that has that kind of a scale readily available. And through our planning efforts with the city, we worked, and their CRA worked very hard to help them stay focused on the big opportunity, and not have a series of little small moves that would then preclude some of these big moves that could happen there. Keep unique about the property what was unique about it, which is the scale. Right. But it's also part of a bigger picture of across the region of looking to better balance our housing and jobs. Right. We have a housing affordability problem. We have it across the region. We have it at all different price points. Houses that in some parts of the region would be inexpensive, in other parts of the region, right. But in their own home area are expensive, right. Because of wages and job opportunities. And so that's part of that Port St. Lucie story in really going after workplaces and jobs and things like that, right. So that 50,000 people a day don't have to get in their car and drive down to Palm Beach County. Right.
And I was going to bring that point up, but as we close in, just a couple quick things. Jill gives us a couple of data points, which I find very interesting. Jill tells us that St. Lucie County is within 3 hours of 70% of the state. I mean, that's really got to kind of be a real selling tool for us along the Treasure Coast. I mean, we could really kind of become a serious distribution center for the state of Florida.
Yes, absolutely. And you look at the population centers, and we are in that interesting spot between Central Florida and Southeast Florida. Right there in the middle. Big opportunities for sure.
Okay. As we come to a close here, a couple of, again, quick questions. How does one contact the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council? How do we find all that you do? It must be some 100-page website, but how do we find that?
Actually, we just redid our website, and we're getting ready to just redo it again and freshen it up. We are on the web, www.tcrpc.org. You can call our offices, 772-221-4060. Or come by our offices. We're in Stewart. We're in downtown Stewart at 421 Southwest Camden Avenue. So
beautiful historic building. And
yes.
Just go see the building. It's beautiful.
Yes, we walk a little bit of the walk at the Regional Planning Council. We're in a downtown. We're in a rehabilitated old building.
Yep.
Right. Do you offer any sort of communications? Do you guys do a newsletter or something that people can get in tune to, or just visit the website for updates?
I would say visiting the website for updates, and then the other great opportunity is every month, or just about every month, we have a governing board meeting that the agenda is typically chock full of I was going to say educational, but also inspirational, educational and inspirational items that are of great interest around the community. And then you can also have an opportunity to hear your local officials talk about big issues. And learn that way. Okay.
Terry, Stephanie, Mr. Lanahan, thank you so much.
Tom, we share a good name, don't we?
We appreciate your time tonight. Appreciate all that you do at the Regional Planning Council. I'm honored to be serving as chair for your committee, Terry. I really appreciate it, and I've learned an awful lot about all the services you do. I'm assuming you must have like 1,000 folks that work there because of all the work you do.
10, actually.
10?
10. Everybody
has
4 jobs.
Y'all are on 3 shifts a day or something?
Right.
But we do appreciate the efforts and the dedication and the commitment to our communities. Our communities are a better place because of what you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And
We
thank you for
appreciate
this
it.
opportunity to let people know about regional planning.
Well, we're going to, shameless plug, we're going to try to put you in the next issue of Treasure Coast Business Magazine, too. So, with that, we will bring to close another segment of Small Biz Florida right here from the Dan K. Richardson Entrepreneurship Development Institute at Indian River State College. And all this brought to you by the Florida Small Business Development Center. Right here at our very own Indian River State College. So, Greg, have a great week, and we'll talk to everyone next week.
You've been listening to Small Biz Florida right here on WPSL, Port St. Lucie. Talk of the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world on TuneIn, on your cell phones, smartphones, whatever. Much smarter than this operator. And WSTU Stewart, Martin County's heritage station, serving the Treasure Coast since 1954.